Wow.
Well, that's when they told us for 911 we couldn't have double names. And so the Dubois wrote a little note requesting that it would be named the Dubois Road, so that's how it became the Dubois Road.
And there are no webs left. All right, this is Calvin Castine. It's December 8th, 1999, and we're on our second leg of what I'm calling 6 days in December, which we're hoping to cover with a variety of different people, the towns in our northern tier, Channel 24 viewing area. Once again, we have Dr. John Southwick at the wheel, and joining us today for our tour of Champlain, the town of Champlain, is the former mailman for the town, Mr. Gerald Mayo, and longtime member of the American Legion and leader in the community, former town supervisor, and a lot of other different things over the years. What are we looking at over here to our right as we start here on the Dubois Road? Who lives here, Gerald?
This is John Paul Tetro's farm. When I was a little boy, it was Mr. Ulrich Racine lived here, and this is where he brought up his children. And right to your left here, I don't know if you can see it, there was a little foundation. There was a schoolhouse here, and that's gone now.
One-room schoolhouse?
Yep.
Well, we're hopefully going to be coming up and down the road. And I want to point out that thanks to Joanne Southwick, our windows are clean this week, John. Last week I was a little under the weather, and I noticed while I was taping it that there was some weather spots in the windows, but I was just too darn lazy in the cool weather to get out there and clean them up. So our apologies to the Morris people. We're heading in a westerly direction. Part of the Tetro Empire here too, Gerald?
Yes, these are the Tetros. Roland Tetro lived here, but when I was growing up, it was Gerard LaFountain. And he has sons that live on Route 9 toward Plattsburgh. And this is where Roland now, it's John Paul's son lives there. And this is their big milk producing farm.
Three of the boys are involved in it, right?
The three boys are involved.
You know whether they have any of their own children that are interested in farming that will continue on?
They don't have any. I don't know how many children they have. Once I got away from being mailman, I lost track of the families. But this is one of the sons here. Growing up, this was the Albert LeBounty lived here, and his daughter is married to Russell Seymour in Champlain. If you know Russell, that's his wife, was born and brought up there. And this little house here is the Misek boy lives here. This is where Mr. George Gooley lived. And he tells me that when the American Legion was first formed, he was a member. He would walk from here down to Champlain to Oscar Breedenberg's house, and that's where they first started holding their meetings.
That was in downtown Champlain, right?
Yes, downtown. He would walk from there all the way down.
She says that she babysat my father years ago.
Probably. Yeah. I don't know. This is a Mercaldi boy lived here, and this is where Clyde Roberts lived. And on this side was Hector McNeil. I don't know if you remember him, John. He is the one that made himself a three-wheel scooter, and he would put it on the railroad track because he worked for the railroad, and he would pump that thing down to Ross's Point to get on with the crew. I remember Mr. McNeil when I first started. He was sort of a eccentric old fella, but he was very interesting.
You better be able to pump fast if you're going down the railroad track with the train coming.
Well, he had it pretty well geared up. This here was started out as a camp. I understand that McDonald's lived there, and that's the The wife is the daughter of Bill the Bombard. Bill and Veronica.
For those of you watching who don't know what we're doing here, the purpose of this show is to show the town of Champlain as it was at the end of the millennium, the end of the decade, the end of the century, in December 1999. So future generations will know what our towns look like.
John knows this. This is the web farm.
Nice. We'll stick to our right here, Gerald.
Yep.
Good.
That's the right is the web farm.
Okay. Which was probably where the Web Dubois
Right.
name came from.
Right. I don't know who had it before Mr. Smith here. Do you remember, John?
No, I don't. I was going to say, I remember Willard.
Willard Smith, yes. And then Mr. Babby lives here. He's gone. Gonna have to forgive me on some of these. These are new. This is a Mr. Parker lives here. His wife is a Phaneuf girl who is sister to Joe Phaneuf, our former superintendent of the highway. This is our town park.
That's way
That's
back.
on the way back. And this is one of the Phaneuf boys, Kirk. He's a good musician.
And good woodworker.
Yes.
Let's go down the creek road. We'll come back and Mills. The building is for monitoring the flow of the river, I believe, right? That little green building.
That little green building was the water. It's where they pump water out of. Of course, the mill, which is no longer.
Yeah, Kaufman's Mill.
Yep. Sawmill.
There's an old Southwick thing up here too, isn't there?
A little further down, you're talking about the
Pump.
power plant.
Power plant, yeah.
Power plant down there. And this here empty lot that you see, this is was flooded out. This was bought out by the state, I guess.
Conley's lived.
The Phaneuf, yeah. This is
And that for sale sign on his camp.
This was vacant for years and years, and Mr. Osterhoff is the one that put that up here, and he's buried right there where you probably caught the flag as you went by, and he wanted to be buried next to his home. We had to get special permission when I was town supervisor to get buried there, and we maintain this. The town has to maintain all cemeteries once the original owners give them up. And these are all new to me.
Now that cemetery is not. There's not new people going in there, is it?
Well, there it's.
I don't think so.
I don't think there's been a burial there in recent times.
No.
I was told it was.
Bob went through that cemetery one time. You were researching a family that lived in Perry's Mills, and he'd gotten a letter from a doctor whose family is buried there.
Uh-huh. These are the Hogo boys. And this is young Roberts. And if you slow down just a little bit and you take a look down this road here, and you go down in the back, and if you look back there, that's where the powerhouse was.
My grandfather built that. He thought he was going to provide power in the village of Champlain, and it never worked out, and he cried till the day he died that it was the only venture that he ever got into where he lost money.
The old saying is, you win some, lose some. Yeah, that was.
At least he didn't spend $1 million on it like Mr. Miner did with his $1 million dam.
That's
No.
right. $10,000.
That's something. These woods to where you're pointing your camera at is owned by the Bertrands.
Showing more devastation of the
Yeah, the
ice storm.
It's amazing when the leaves come, you hardly even notice it. Once the leaves go, memories are there.
This used to be a little tough country when I went through here with just a regular car, and then once I got my Jeep, it was a little easier for me.
Okay, we'll turn around here at about 11 and head back. We're back on our way to Perry's Mills.
Right, now the woodlot that you're pointing at now is owned by Hector Coughlin. These are new. I think they just live in the summertime and they're mostly gone in the winter. This is Chet Carbino lives here.
Put his ladder up, putting up his Christmas decorations.
Is this still Hector's?
No, I think this is Techo's own this. I think this is part of the Bidar farm. I'm almost positive.
Name on the sign, but I can't read it.
Maybe a doctor wrote it. Well, we take the Cardin Road over and come back. Now this was the Webb-Dubois extension before, right, Gerald?
Yes, and then they petitioned and they asked to have the name change under 911, and we went to the Cardin Road.
Now, for the most part, you were town supervisor at that point, or you were in the town council at that point?
No, I was town supervisor.
Now, for the most part, you went by who the first
Request.
family was?
Right,
First family on the road was pretty much the one you went by?
that's right,
So Roy Cardin was the first one to put a house up in this stretch
right.
in recent times. I imagine in the past there must have been people living out here.
Well, there was a couple houses, you know. It grew up quick. Like I say, some of these I don't know. This is Robbie Roberts, lives here. He works for the Town of Champlain. This one I don't know. This is Mr. Jim Tierney, manager of the Bull Mart.
And Lisa.
And Lisa. Very good bowler.
Both of them are.
Yeah, this is He's Felix Misek's grandson. It's a Gaio, I think, is his name, and this is Scott.
We may never know.
Blondo, Scott Blondo. Takes time for the computer to work now. And this is Carden.
It's called delayed memory. When you get over 55, that happens to most of us.
Oh, is that it? Delayed memory? Having it quite often now.
Senior moment, they call it now. Little trail deck back there.
Gee, I don't know who this is. But this is Cadet Boy that married Carl LaFountain's daughter. Lives here. And this is a new one. I imagine they're probably gone to Florida. You see they got their car wrapped.
You know who owns this land?
I think this is the Loudons come in here somewheres. I don't know just how much of this they own, but I know the Loudons come in here, or some of the land. I know we keep referring this area as Perry's Mills. It's not Perry's Mills. It's Perry Mills.
Glad you brought that out.
Yes.
Brother Lucas always used to say, it's wrong to call it Perry's Mills. It's Perry Mills.
That's right.
Yeah, I know the maps all say Perry Mills.
Yeah, Perry Mills.
Perry's
Yeah.
Mills seems to come off the lips a little easier than Perry Mills.
This is Joe Fanaff. He's a former superintendent of the highway. Babby lives here. See, one of our JCEO buses here. I just took a 12-hour course with them Monday and Tuesday. I'll let John tell you about the brick house. He knows that one.
That was Webb's at one time, and then Broder Lucas purchased it years ago. Before the Webbs, he had a name for it. I can't remember who it was. But now it's owned by Coupal.
Right.
Broder Lucas was one of those people that Bob and I were going to talk to, but he went before we had a chance.
Yeah. Interesting, man. My mother used to call him the original hippie. He was the first cousin of my father's. He used to walk around in these old shoes, and he could go from East Coast to West Coast, and probably less money than anybody. He knew everybody along the way that would stop, even people that have gas stations fill his car up with gas, but he'd reciprocate.
Yeah. This is Mr. John Grew, and this was his blacksmith shop. As a little boy, I came here with my father to get some horses shoed. This was Donald Hogle here. And now it's Orville Tremblay.
I think Orville sold it. I'm not sure who's...
They just sold it?
I believe so. I know Orville's living at this point now.
And the Hurlberts lived here.
And before that was Charlie Lucas. Charlie and Anna Lucas.
There.
Charlie used to have an old Model T, and he drove that for years. I gotta get off the road.
Slow movement here.
The Richards lived here. It's Thibodeau here now. And this is where Ellsworth, better known as Sid, had his shop.
And a trucking service too.
There used to be a road back there too, eh, Gerald?
Yes, that's the road that's in question by a lot of people. It has caused some problems. This is the Loudons, Mr. Sam Loudon and Mrs. Mabel Loudon. She was a school teacher up here.
We go straight in the North Star Road at this point. We're coming off old Route 11 right now, heading west.
This was the Boas. I don't know who lives there now.
That's where Sorrel is.
Okay.
Lives there, right? That's where the little girl fell into
Okay.
the stream there a couple years back. See how deep these ditches are here.
This woodlot on the right was part of the Lucas farm, and I think it's still owned by Jim Lucas, son of Broder.
Entering Town of Mars, so I guess we're gonna have to turn around. When we go down this other stretch here, when we did our Moors tour, we filled up 2 hours and 40 minutes, and we couldn't do everything. And we're not gonna do every road here again today.
You're right. This woodlot is owned by Hector Kaufman.
I imagine when that mill was running, the Coffins owned a lot of woodlots. So they might buy most of the lumber logs.
I think both.
Boas now?
Yeah, they did. No, he's talking about whether when Kaufman's ran their sawmill, whether they had a lot of woodlots themselves, or
No.
did they buy? Or
They bought a lot.
not a lot.
Yeah.
They used to bring a lot.
Yes. This was Goldie Clark Farm. I don't know who it was before that. That's way before my time. Then the Bows bought it, and now it's young Gay. He's made tremendous improvements on it. I guess it's quite a farm now.
We should point out the Roxham Road. That used to be the Clark Road at one point, right?
Yes.
And again, with 911 coming in, there were 2 Clark roads in the town. One
Right,
in
you had
Hill
to-
and one here. And the Clark family in
I'm trying to think of the lady's name that used to be up there that used to sell. Do you remember what her name was, John?
What are you talking about? I don't remember her name.
Yeah. Well, maybe my delayed memory will come back.
kick in. Of course, the Roxham Road is known as the Roxham Road on the other side of the border too.
Yes.
No border crossing there.
And this is Mr. Bowes here, Richard. He's the one that's the chief of the security at the college in Plattsburgh. Was it a Mrs. Weir? Was her name?
I think so, but
Yeah. She, during Prohibition, I guess she would sell hard cider, if you will.
spirits. This is still, isn't it?
That
Charles,
gold-
all the Goldie Clark.
Right,
Boas,
this is all the
and
Goldie
Gay
Clark,
farm.
right.
And those of you wondering why we're showing open fields, because this is what it looked like in 1999. Who knows what's going to look like 100 years from now. And of course, this is a time capsule. You know, I think every one of us would, at one point, love to have gone back 100, 200 years just to visit for a day.
Right.
Well, this here's a time capsule that people in the future will be able to take a trip back to 1999. slowing down? We out of gas?
No, we just went across the old railroad bed.
Right.
You looking for the train, were you, John?
Yeah, I was hoping that we didn't meet head on or sideways or whatever. But right there was a Bateman farm at
Right.
Armstrong, and who is it now? Is it still Armstrong?
Yeah, no, it's sold to a Leduc, but Paul Babby used to.
Before that, right?
Yeah.
But Mrs. Bateman used to provide water for the trains.
Right.
that went through.
Have a water tower there and everything?
But I don't know if there was an actual tower, but there must have been some sort of an elevated, yeah, you call it a tower, elevated platform for her to give water to the trains as they came through.
These are new places since I took my retirement. And this is one of the Armstrong boys has built a house. I think it's this one here.
Still gotta put their names in their mailbox.
Right.
I think this one here?
This was a Thibodeau built it, or Thibault that built it. And the one in the back was a Canadian who built it just for a summer home.
You turn around Don Smith's yard here, John, and we'll point out that these cannon are pointing right at his house here that the VFW put up.
Last week, Calvin and I decided to change the name of the Twin Bridges to the Twin Cannons or Twin Guns or whatever it is.
Yeah, that's. It dresses up their flagpoles.
I know Don Smith here has behaved a lot better since those cannon went in there. And back toward Terry Mills. How about Coopersville? Is that Cooperville or Coopersville?
I was wondering if you were going to bring that up.
Well, before
I
we
think
get
it-
there, we'll bring
I-
it up now there, Gerald.
I think it's Coopersville. The Coopers live there.
But wasn't that because they made, weren't the Coopers applied to the barrel makers?
Right.
Okay.
This, you might be able to get a glimpse of the Great Chazy River here.
Oh, yeah.
I really don't want to tell the people this, but this is the greatest musky fishing river, I think, in the northern part of New York. And people are starting to find it out.
Except your buddy in crime said you guys didn't do too well this year.
No, we didn't. We just went out once and the rain came and I guess we're a little too soft.
Toogie said he had a big one, but it...
Oh, he always has one. You know, he's the typical fisherman.
Francis Roberts. Also known as Tiger or Toogie.
Yeah, this is Raymond lives here.
Manette. Eugene.
Raymond Manette, right.
Eugene Manette. Commonly as Raymond. Wife Carmel. They have a lot of Christmas trees growing in their yard.
This is one of the Kaufman girls. That was Mr. Larry Friends that's on top of that dozer. He's the son of Carl Friends. And this is another one of the Kaufman girls. That's Betty, I think. And the other one is Julie.
Where did Billy Loudon build a house in here? Didn't he have a home in here? Is it coming
No.
up? Or?
No, Billy didn't build a house here. There was a trailer here at one time, but you can probably see the hookup on the pole, and it was only there for a very short time. This is Mr. Ken Loudon's place. Ken and his wife. Ken is gone now.
A year or so.
And this is, yeah, this used to be, trying to think of the meat cutters.
From Champlain?
Yeah, they used to be meat cutters.
Not the LaValleys.
No. Boy. Got me on that one. Chansey.
Chansey, yeah.
I think one of them, his name was Chansey.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it was, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we should sit down and write all these things, John. We're forgetting them. This is another schoolhouse. I think a Mr. Misek lives there.
It's one of the steeples up here, John.
Yes.
Yep, this is
Very-
Mr. Grew's church. I always called it. I don't know what denomination it was, John. You can
Methodist.
Methodist denomination.
Right.
It's one of the three steeples. That was
And when it
illuminated.
came to delivering a sermon, he could out-preach Jerry Falwell anytime.
Did you go by the old store? Where's the old store?
Is that missing?
The old store's gone?
By golly, is it gone?
It's gone.
We just went by.
That's,
And this is the Kaufman House.
Yeah, we should go back and
Yes,
Go
gee.
back and reminisce about the old store.
This is
What a historical building that was.
shocker to me.
me too. Just been knocked down
Hey.
in the last month or two.
Right here, huh?
Yeah, it's gone, John.
I was wondering what people were.
And it was solid wood, too. It was well put together.
My golly.
It's a very unique
This is a
structure.
big part of Perry Mills right here was the general store. And John and I are both flabbergasted here. It's gone. I didn't know they had intentions of doing it. I hope somebody took some pictures of it.
I'm sure we've got it on our tape, but we did the tour with Ben Dane over the area. I'm sure we've got pictures of it then, but certainly a landmark that kind of defined Perry Mills.
Yes.
And this is the road we just passed here, what went down to the mill. And as a little boy, Mr. Hitchcock, who my father worked for, had some logs, and we came and delivered the logs. And this is where we first stopped at a store, and Mr. Kaufman would come out with this stick that he had, and he could measure the board feet on that on those logs with just a matter of minutes. And then we'd go back down in here, and we'd dump them into a canal. And that's where they would take them in from a chain and bring them up and go put them through the mill. There's a house back there, too.
There were several houses,
Well, there's, yeah, two. There's two houses, in fact, yes.
but there were several before that. If you look at
Before that, well,
the old maps, you can see that
Uh-huh.
there's almost a little village back there.
this is Bobby Falcon's store. And right along here, if you go a little slow here, we can probably see, this is, up in here was where a house, wasn't there, John?
Yes.
Or back
Yeah,
there?
It was called the Hogel House. It was part of Broder Lucas's.
Yes. Again, you'll probably get a glimpse of the Great Chazy River, how it winds, and its way from up in Moores and up in Ellenburg and way up down to the lake. If you'd follow all the twists and turns it makes, it's
They're saying as the crow flies is a lot different than as the fish swims. Then.
yeah, that's probably right. The crow goes in a straight line. This is a LaBelle boy. It's Bill LaBelle's son. And this is Leslie Burl is the first one.
Burrow Lane.
Yeah.
I think John's turning. I'm gonna let somebody by again.
Yeah, it's... We had some problems with the camp that was built down there. They're getting a little more restrictive, and I'm happy to see it, that you just can't put sewer systems and have them dump into the river anymore, and I'm happy to see that. That's a Gooley, Arthur Gooley. You probably know Lillian Knowles and those. That's her father. This is Mr. Montpelier.
Melvin?
Yep, Melvin. That's Jay's father.
By the frog pond now.
Noonfelt used to own that. And I'm trying to think, I worked there a couple summers, and I can't for the life of me remember the lady that was in charge. She was a tough old lady. Again,
Bell to tell us, we did our story with him.
Just the sign of first sawmill, plenty more.
right, plenty more.
Many more, one of the founders of the Champlain.
At Noonfeld, there were stories when I remember during World War II that he was a German spy. Why he would house himself in Champlain or the town of Champlain to spy on what, I don't know.
Yeah. The only thing I can remember was the tower, the airplane tower that they had a little ways from where I lived. I'm trying to think of the man that manned it most of the time. He was caretaker for the Dudleys. I don't know if you remember him, John.
Yes.
What was his name? I'm not the only one that has delayed memory here.
You're talking about the fellow lived right there?
Yeah, he lived
right across the road.
right where
Not Mark, but Mark Eddy did live there.
yeah, Scott Colby bought it, and I can't think of what his name was. He did most of the recording of the airplanes that flew over during World War II. This is Racine's here. This is Morris Racine. Doc Racine's father and mother. This is Gerald Gooley. Now, there was a Fillion that owned, it was Fred Fillion, Alfred Fillion that owned this farm. The house was here and the farm was down there. This is Mrs. Knowles lives here. And this is Scott Bayshore Farm.
Didn't Alan Elvidge own some farm in here?
In the back, way in the back. The Elvidge farm came down from the other way, and this one came in this way, and they met back there. Yes.
By the frog pond. Active place 40 years ago, Missile Bays Road.
Very, very.
We went through Moores, we went to the town garage where the old missile site in Moores.
Right.
Of course, Frank Goodrich told us that They bring those Atlas missiles up every once in a while and bring them back down. So apparently there were missiles in these missile sites. Econo Plastics had a plant here 25 years ago or so. Or the last ones to use this facility.
Right.
The Junior tells us that the federal government still owns this, and they're supposed to what? Maintain it? I don't know what that means.
That's your understanding in Champlain?
Yeah. Maintain it, just keep people out of it, I guess.
So it's still owned by the federal?
Yes. Tim Parsons lives up here. I don't know which one is Tim's.
It's
The one.
Shaky Drive there.
Oh, okay.
There's Norm Bono's place. Not much on that road, but I think the missile base makes it an important part of our history. Law enforcement officers, so that was a complete stop. Just the camera made it look like it wasn't.
It's called the Hollywood stop.
Did you get this house here? That goes way back. This is Babby owned that, and I don't know who owns it. McDonald, I think, owns it now. But the one before is a Gamache that owns it now. But before that was Felix Mayo. And
Related?
well, it was distance. You know, I was very surprised when I first took the mail route. I discovered there was a Mayo on the mail route that I didn't know.
Who's that farm in the distance here? We're not going to go down this side road.
Poisson.
Poisson, and Lisa Pap lives here with her mother. She did live here.
She's a Poisson too.
Yes. She is
Nurse.
nurse at the hospital, right. A young Roberts built this one. I don't know which one, but these are new. You know, to a farmer looking at this land, this is beautiful land, beautiful farmland here.
Yeah, this is the Broder Lucas farm, and I think his son still owns it. There's a beautiful home here, burned several years ago. Broder Lucas and his father, before him, owned that. Broder died in 1992, 90, just about 90 years old. All this farm, all this land belongs to the Lucas farm.
He used to say he was land poor.
Yes, he did.
The one thing they're not making any more of, though, right? Land.
No, I guess not.
Back on the Law Road.
This is a young McCuldy girl married, is married here. Now, she lives here, I know that, but I don't know her married name. And this is the playground that the Town of Champlain went kind of fast there. There was a little plaque out there that reads that it was donated by Morris Kaufman in memory of his father and mother. That piece of property there, this is the Dubois place. Junior, as he's known. And this here, I don't know.
Got a cat over there.
Used to be Leonard Tolman, didn't it, years
A
ago?
long, long time ago, yes. This is the McCuldy place. This is
Leonard.
yeah, there was used to be a duplex home there, if you will, just before you got to Leonard. You remember that?
Yep.
That's when Mr. Francis St. Andrew lived on one side and Cyril Baker lived on the other side, I guess.
Now, what farmland does this go with, Gerald?
I think this is the Loudon farm.
Still is.
Yeah. I think the Tatros have purchased all this on this side. This is where Mr. Hector McNeil lived, that built that gizmo that he had for the run on the track on a bicycle sprocket or whatever he had. It was quite a deal. This is the Albert Bidar farm. I think it's owned by the Tatros now. Other than the house, I think Hector lives in the house. And when Mr. Bidar quit farming, he built this home, this brick home here, and now it's owned by Richard Goki. His father's Albert Goki, and of Ross's Point lives there now.
Be a nice big house up here. This farm.
Yes. Yeah, it was a beautiful big brick house, and that was Joe Bulris brought his family there, and then John Roberts owned it, and I don't know who owns it now. The little house on the right here is Mr. Wilfred Tatro. When he gave up farming, he built this home here.
Vincelette still live there?
Pardon?
Clyde Vincelette live there?
I don't know. There was a for sale sign in the front, Mr. Vincelette. He's probably gone. This to your right, the farmland that you're looking at now, is owned by the Tatros. I understand they just recently purchased it. It was the Hitchcock farm. And then Mr. Ralph Lewis purchased it. And it was known as the Cold Stream Farm. They tell me that there was a battle over the name Cold Spring Farm. When I was a little boy, you could walk all over this farm and just bring a cup with you, and you would run into springs all over the place. And but it's whoever recorded the name first, so the farm on the other side became the Cold Spring, and this one was Cold Stream.
This is about where you and Bob started in your 1989 film, wasn't it?
This is Al Strack, Mr. Al Strack. This is Mr. Al Glode. This has been sold and rented to one of the Blaine girls, and Alfred Glode built this home right here. See, here's one that we named, had no name, so it's the Glode Road.
Used to be the end of Moore Street, correct?
Yes.
Northway came through, it cut off Moore Street.
Well, Moore Street used to come, yes.
Up here is Guy Juno and Jerry Dumanelli's
Right.
two houses on.
Moore Street
Back
came
and
through this way,
Bill Baker lived back
Calvin, straight by the square house over there.
over there, okay.
Yeah. And this new home to your right is Harvey. It's a Harvey boy, I understand, is building this new home. It was quite a home. It came in sections, and the roof was already on it. They brought a big crane, and they just raised the roof like on hinges and put it together. It was quite something to watch. And this is where your gas supply comes in. It comes in coal, and there's a heater here that heats the gas before it can be put back into the pipe for use. It has to be a certain degree. And what we're looking at now is the Blaine farm, known as the Lone Oak Farm. There was only one oak tree on it, and they called it the Lone Oak Farm. And I remember old Mr. Blaine and Mrs. Alma Blaine. They always had a variety of animals. They loved animals, took good care of them.
Son Sam lives there now.
Yeah, Sam, their grandson. This is Gerald's house. Gerald and Marion lived there. And this house here is Mr. Donald Tatro. And the next little one here is mine. Used to be the schoolhouse location, and this is Roland Tatro. And this little woodlot here is part of the Tatro, and this is Chris Tremblay. Lives there. And Daryl Misek lives in this first one. His brother Russell lives in the next one. And then his brother Donald, better known as Moose, lives in this one. And Mr. Felix Misek built this house. And a young Tatro bought it. Greg Tatro bought it. And now it's Ashline that lives there. David Ashline.
That sawmill back there.
Yes. And that used to be a town road, too.
Eddie. Eddie.
The old Dudley Grove.
This is the Dudley Grove, as John just mentioned. I, as a little boy, used to bring milk, 2 quarts of milk, every other day, and brought their wood in for 50 cents a week. And I was making big money. They had a sister named Nellie who maintained the house. She did the cooking and whatever. And the older of the sister was Allie, or better known as Alice. And then there was Maud, who taught me from 1st grade to 6th grade. And then there was Mary, who taught in the elementary in Champlain, and they had a brother, Ned, who did the outside work until they hired Ed DuPont. I don't know if you remember Mr. Edward DuPont.
Yes.
That was Mr. Fred Hicks's wife, was a DuPont girl, and that's where Mr. Ed DuPont, he used to run the farm up here. This is one of the cast iron boys.
Island Darcy lived there.
Yes.
And then the place we were talking about before, the Dudley place, it's Paul and Linda Seymour now.
Yes. Mr. Paul Seymour, yes.
And that's known as the Dudley Road, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't see changing that one.
It was Route 11.
Yes.
Of course, it was
But it was always known as Dudley Curve or whatever.
a very dangerous curve.
Yeah. This is, the Dudleys used to own this, and then Mr. Howard Post, and this is where Francis Tougie Roberts lives, who claims to be a fisherman, but I taught him everything he knows. This is his son,
I'll have to interrupt
John.
you there and say that there's an argument about that, but we won't carry that on.
Well, wait till he watches this program. I'll hear about it.
Is this all his farmland still?
Yes, yes,
Woodlot.
yes. This was an Indian gentleman from Montreal, and I understand he got sick and he's now passed away. Peter LaHaas was his name. And he's gone. And this is where it all flooded out, and all, if you notice alongside the road with the heavy stone, washed all this away in one of the last floods that we had.
Beaver Creek.
Yeah, and this is Morrison lives back there. Beautiful home.
Back looking at the Bertrand
Yeah.
lot.
Yep.
We are, of course, on Route 11. In case people haven't figured that out. Yeah, I think we'll go down the Town Line Road, St. John Road.
Did he have that right? Perry Mills.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Now, if you say Perry's Mill, you're really wrong, right?
Oh, I guess so.
Now, is the right-hand side of this Moores and the left side Champlain?
You're right.
Correct?
Yes.
But the town plows the road, right? The town of
Yes.
Champlain?
This is Rainy Longwell lives here.
Rainey and Veronica.
Yes. I don't know if Mr. Don Bayshore still lives with them, but he still does. No, we have a pause just to say a little something. When I first took the mail route, I was doing 50 miles with 200 stops. That meant I had 200 families. When I left, I had 75 miles and 574 stops. So that's how much it grew in 31 years that I was on there. So it was interesting.
Is it Joe Matot?
This is Joe Matot, and this has been sold. And this is Langto, I think.
Longton, yeah.
Longton,
Donna Longton.
yes. He passed away. He worked at Wyatt Harris, I believe.
Yes.
Very nice young man.
Bottle collector.
Yeah.
Insulation.
Insulator.
Insulator.
Just insulators. Yeah.
Yeah.
Insulator collector.
That's right. You did a.
No, I was going to. I'm a North Countryman, and I also selling insurance for Woodland of the World. Went there talking with Tony and Donna, and he said, "You want to see my insulators?" Insulation. I couldn't figure out what he was talking about. So then they showed me their collection of old insulators. Yeah, let's go straight.
Oh, yeah, you're in Morris the other way. See? Entering the town of.
And all those old insulators from the electric poles, telephone poles, and so on. Quite a collection of them. I think the highway superintendent's doing something here.
Well, if it's Champlain, that'll tell you that side of the road is Champlain. And it looks like Champlain.
Yep, Mr. Laverne's in the truck. Of course, the highway superintendent is my brother Sam Casper. Known as Clarence to his mother. I don't know where they're bringing all this topsoil, but